StreamYard's bell. Hello, everybody. It's Jackson here from the Jackson Harris Podcast. Once again, welcome to 2025 Jackson Harris Podcast. Once again, I'm here with Tyler, the Antenna Man, a rising star, and you install antennas for a living. How you doing?
Good. What about you?
I've been all right. The crazy day I had. Let's talk about this channel and how it got started. Was it like a lifelong thing of yours to try to get TV delivered to your home? Was it something more recent?
So I've been experimenting with antennas since I was 5 years old. My fascination with over-the-air TV started when there was a TV on my parents' bedroom. I turned it on, played with the knobs like it was a toy, and it fascinated me that I was picking up TV stations with nothing being plugged in. So as I grew up, I purchased different TVs from thrift stores. I had one of those 5-inch black and white TVs that they used to sell at department stores. And right when I got my first TV, my parents moved from a location on top of a mountain to a deep hole in a valley where reception was almost non-existent. So I spent a lot of time as a kid playing with different antennas and just trying everything I could to get a trace of a signal from like 60, 70 miles away. And, I learned a lot over the years, and it's extended into college. When I was in college, I was closer to, the broadcast towers when I went to different schools. And so I was able to experiment, but in a better way, because I could actually receive a signal a lot more clearer than back in the analog days where I was at. And after college, I started installing antennas locally just to help people out, because I felt bad for a lot of people in the area that were paying for cable and satellite and complaining about their bill. A lot of them were seniors on fixed incomes, and they just didn't have the money to pay for it. So I was installing antennas for a few years. And at the same time, I started posting content to YouTube, just kind of as a way to help out people in my service area to get, with reception tips and information, how to improve their antenna setup, and even updates about what the TV stations were doing. I didn't think I'd be able to make a living off it full time. It wasn't until the pandemic that I was kind of forced into doing it in a good way. I couldn't install antennas locally on location because of the pandemic. I was worried about spreading COVID. And I also filmed weddings at the time. They were all canceled. So I had no choice but to focus on my YouTube channel full time. And sure enough, as soon as I put a big effort into it, it took off to the point that I was able to make a living off it as I do today.
And and your channel is more than a channel because, in addition, you're reviewing antennas and stuff. But we'll talk about in a few minutes that you offer a service that people can pay a small amount of money for them to give them a recommendation about their particular situation. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
And let's talk about UHF and VHF. What's the difference between those two?
So there is a big difference between the two. I try not to confuse too many people in my videos about the differences, because the average viewer of my channel is almost the average non-technical cord cutter. They don't necessarily need to know, the technical differences between the two, but they should know that VHF requires a longer antenna element while UHF requires a shorter antenna element. A lot of the antennas on Amazon don't have elements long enough for VHF reception. So you have people who purchase these small flat antennas or these really puny outdoor antennas that are only maybe a foot long. And they wonder why they can't. Yeah, exactly. That's an example. And they wonder why they can't get their local ABC or CBS station. Every market has at least most markets have at least one major TV station affiliated with the big four on the VHF band. So it's important to have a VHF capable antenna. I will briefly talk about the technical details, why they are different. So VHF is lower frequencies, longer elements or longer wavelengths, which require longer elements. Then UHF is higher frequencies, shorter elements, shorter wavelengths. So that's where the two come from.
Well, I guess now that we'll talk about the new, the new standard just came out, ATS 3, in a few minutes. But for the most part, TV stations are usually on VHF and UHF, and your type of antenna will, if you choose, will depend on the success there, right?
Yes, so I think almost every market, there are a few exceptions, but every market needs a VHF capable antenna now. Those flat antennas, sometimes they'll work if the signal is strong enough, but in general, a person should assume the worst and make sure that the antenna they have has a kind of rabbit ear style element, like a big wide V or just a line going across. That's really what's needed. Most channels are on the UHF band, but as I said, almost every market has one major network affiliated station on the VHF band.
And the type of antenna that you choose will depend on the success right there. But some people might be better off with one antenna versus even another, even at the same distance.
Yeah, you're correct. So antennas are not a one size fits all model. A lot of people ask me what's the best antenna, and I tell them there is no one that's the best. I know of like 10 or 15 that are pretty good for different locations, but it's not only the frequencies. So you could look at just a VHF, UHF capable antenna. There also comes into question how much gain you need, depending on how strong or weak the signals are, how many trees are around your house, and where the signal's broadcast from. Because larger antennas, some people think, let me get the biggest, baddest, largest antenna out there, not realizing they are more directional. So if they're in a market where the signals are kind of spread out, that could actually hurt them compared to a smaller antenna that's a little bit more multi-directional. So, you're correct. It's a location. It really varies, even within the same market. I've had people tell me, oh, my neighbor down the road, he uses this antenna, it works fine, but it doesn't work for me. What's wrong with my antenna? I tell him it can vary on the street. Where I grew up at, down the road, even I think it was maybe like 2,000 feet away, so half mile away, if that, they got good reception. But where I was at, there was a mountain in the distance that just kind of shadowed everything. So I was kind of out of luck. It can make a difference even on a street.
And the thing is, it's not just terrain. You said trees might have an impact on anything.
Yeah, trees do have an impact. So they degrade reception a little bit, depending on how many of them there are, and especially when they move around in the wind, they can fluctuate the signals and cause multipath.
So
And
like,
basically, should be
like this
assumed,
usually.
yeah, basically like that. It should be assumed if you have trees around, you first want to make sure the antenna is installed in a spot that's the best clearing in the direction of the broadcast towers. But in general, you don't want a small antenna. If there's a lot of trees around, you want a medium to large size one with more gain.
And but do you think it could be a problem if they keep on moving around like bad winds or something?
It is. I mean, areas that have a lot of trees around, it should be understood that you're going to get brief signal disruptions on windy days. You just want to make sure that you have a good enough antenna that can help compensate for that. So instead of, channel being completely unwatchable and breaking up for hours on end, it only breaks up for a few seconds when there's a strong wind gust.
And I know some people that have some restrictions, like their HOAs. Is there laws against restricting certain types of antennas that by federal mandate?
Yeah, so there's a federal law that went into effect. I think it went into effect in 1996 that prohibits outdoor restrictions on outdoor antennas from any association, whether it be a community, HOA, or condo. But there are some caveats to it. You have to have exclusive access to the area the antenna is installed. So if you live in a townhouse that has a patio or balcony, you can set up there. But if it's just an apartment, there's no place that you have exclusive access to. You can't just put it up on the roof if it's common area owned by the property or whatever. The other thing is there's a misconception about the rule because it mentions a certain diameter, and that refers to a satellite dish. It does not refer to a TV antenna. A TV antenna can be any size as long as it's designed for TV frequencies. The most the HOA can do is limit to where you can install it. So they can, for example, say, if you have a backyard, they can say, you can't have it, it can't be seen from the street, but they can't outright say no, and they can't say it has to be a certain size. A lot of them try to do it. Most probably aren't aware of the law, but in the majority of cases, if a consumer wants to install an outdoor antenna and they have an HOA, They simply print the law. You can just look up FCC HOA antenna law. They present it to their HOA, and they usually back off because it's a federal law. I mean, no HOA is above the federal government.
And let's actually go ahead and let's talk about the DVRs like this, the ATS, the HD Home Run system. What kind of, like, for going into the new ATS3 standard, like what kind of DVR? You can't use this because this doesn't have this is only a 1.0, but like what kind of like things?
I get what you're asking. So I should make it clear, and I try to make it clear in a lot of my videos, that we're in the very early stages of ATSC 3.0. It has been a little while, but it's not really getting much traction for a variety of reasons. And it's not like you have to purchase an ATSC 3.0 tuner. The current TV standard is going to be around for another 5 or 10 years, possibly longer, if this whole standard flops, because there's a lot of things wrong with it, in my opinion. When it comes to a DVR, a person should not necessarily look whether it's ATSC 3.0 capable for the future with the illusion that the stations are going to be shut down in a few years. That's just not going to happen. They should look at the type of DVR that works best for them. And Tablo is good because it connects, like I'll highlight the benefits of both. The Tablo and Air TV are great because they can connect on to a Wi-Fi network. They don't have to be hardwired by Ethernet like the HD Home Run. But at the same time, I believe the HD Home Run is the most stable. I plan to review it on my YouTube channel in a few weeks. I wasn't aware that it was easy to use as a DVR. I thought you needed to set up some kind of crazy server. So that it all depends on, where the antenna is and how you can connect it to the router. Yeah. But the Zapper Box, for example, the Zapper Box is kind of replacing the market that TiVo was in, where it's a standalone unit. You can connect directly to the TV. It works very well. I mean, it's supported very well by the owner. He's constantly working on it. It's ATSC 3.0 capable, and it just works well. It's very smooth. It works really well. They are working on network access, so network connectivity where you can access the Zapper Box from multiple devices in the home. The only thing is they have a lot of roadblocks because the ATSC 3.0 TV standard, there's just it's
encrypted.
Yeah, the encryption, there's so much red tape involved that there's a lot of would-be DVRs that would have existed. I mean, the Tablo was working on a 3.0 model before the encryption happened, and it's just kind of stopping possible options for consumers. And that's why I kind of urge people to contact their elected officials and representatives to urge them to pass legislation preventing DRM encryption on the new broadcast signal. Because if it does end up taking off and not enough people make enough noise about the DRM encryption and it's here to stay, that's going to cause a lot of problems, and it might even enable TV stations to charge for their channels down the road.
And the big thing is, I was going to ask this, but I haven't seen it in a recent video in a while. I was going to ask that. Does Roku TVs work with the ATS 3.0 standard?
So this is, it's hard to say. It currently does. Roku TVs, if you have a Zapper Box connected to an HDMI port on the TV, it'll work. But as far as decoding ATSC 3.0 and an app on Roku, which a lot of people do with the Tablo, they do with the HD Home Run.
They just do it with the live TV, like the live TV. If you go into settings, like that,
it's currently not an option because of the encryption. There's Google Widevine, and there's not yet support on the Roku, to my understanding. They're probably working on it. But again, it just adds red tape. Like, this whole thing would just be a lot better if the broadcasters just stopped trying to encrypt their garbage programming that no one gives an F about.
And here's the thing with the ATS3. There's a tower not far from me. It's in Simpsonville, South Carolina. Their signal rate does not reach here, which made me mad because I couldn't figure it out. I was like, why can't I get this? Why can't I get ATS3 on my TV now? And then look up Next Gen TV. Not available in your area. It's like, what the heck? We're in the area for the TV stations. We're gonna lose programming or something?
Yeah, so that's a tricky. Launching ATSC 3.0 is tricky, and it varies depending on the market. So in a market like yours, where the TV stations are kind of like in different locations, sometimes it launches on a signal that does not cover the whole market. I mean, it's also the case in the Roanoke, Lynchburg market. It launched on a low-powered station. Same with I can't think off the top of my head, but there are a few situations where it's the same thing. And what sometimes happens is it goes on the opposite end too, where people who used to receive a certain station that converted to 3.0 and moved their sub channels to stations people can't pick up, they end up losing some channels. It's just kind of like a shuffling of channels. As I said, I don't really blame the broadcasters. They're trying to do their best to cover the whole market, and there's a simulcast requirement. But yeah, in some cases, people don't receive the ATSC 3.0 signal in their market if this transmitters are spread out.
And I really think that, I know we still have ATS 1.0, but I honestly, if they want to do the 3.0 too, they just need to keep both, honestly, overall to me, because some people can't get the ATS 3.0.
Well, if it transitions completely, what'll happen is the stations that people are getting in 1.0 will eventually become 3.0 years down the road. I'm talking like 5 or 10 years down the road.
It'll become this pretty much the same damn thing, and then
it'll actually take a flip. Supposedly, there's talks about an ATSC 1.0 lighthouse service. So currently, ATSC 3.0, when it launches in a given market, there's one broadcast station that launches it and carries all the stations on the 3.0 signal. Down the road, I'm saying probably 5-10 years down the road, it can't be rushed. It'll switch if the standard takes off, where you'll have one signal carry all the major networks in 1.0. The problem is the codec on it is not as efficient as 3.0, so they'll probably be reduced to standard definition. We'll see marketing campaigns on the TV stations saying, if you want high definition HDR, got to get a 3.0 tuner, and the picture quality 1.0 will be greatly reduced.
Yeah, that's the big thing. And with the new ATS3 standard that just came out a long while back, I'm not really into that new. I like the original 1.0 when it came back in 1999. It was HD, it was HD and everything. You can see the picture clearly on TV, and with everything being 4K, and I know this election that happened a while back had affected some things for the launching. If I'm correct, the launch affected it. And I was going to say, but did somebody didn't want to hang an antenna off the side of their house? I guess the attic would be something, right?
Say that again?
I was trying to say that I know there's certain laws about the whole antennas thing, but did someone didn't want to hang an antenna off the side of their house? I guess the attic would be a great place.
Yeah, so an attic is another option if someone doesn't want to install an antenna outside. And I should make it clear that you should not attempt to install an antenna outside if you're not handy and you haven't been on your roof or anything like that. Like the chance of falling off the roof and getting seriously injured is real. It can actually happen. An attic, setting up an antenna is a safer route, but it's only an option in fair to strong signal areas, typically within like 30, 40 miles from the towers. What you have to do is you have to use a small TV as a guide or signal meter to try different locations for the antenna, because attics, there'll be a lot of hot and cold spots where you'll put the antenna here, won't get stations, put the antenna there, won't get stations, but you might get stations fine right here. The only way to know for sure is to use a signal meter or TV as a guide. You don't want to just put up an antenna point and hope for the best, even outside. I mean, I think 90% of people do that, where they just put up the mast, point the antenna, and go, oh, we're good. No, you want to use a signal meter to make sure the signals are coming in fine at that location.
Yeah, and I know I saw one of your recent videos a while back, and it was about watching TV, watching sports, like the Super Bowl coming up in February, and a couple other sports channels during an antenna. Is it on one of your videos? This was like recent. This was like recently.
Yeah, I think it was my most recent video. It was about the picture quality of over-the-air TV is actually better than cable and satellite, and there's a lower latency. So when you're watching live sports, if you use an antenna, you're going to see the action between 10 to 20 seconds ahead of most people using cable or satellite.
Or streaming.
Up to a whole minute ahead of people who stream the channel, because streaming has a lot more different hoops it has to go through. So it's a big difference, and a lot of people don't realize that the antenna is really underrated. More people should have it. I don't really understand the mindset of the average person. I don't know if they're not aware of it. They probably aren't aware of it. Just the fact that, why are you paying for these channels when, yes, sometimes I understand there's an effort sometimes, that it's not like you buy a cheap antenna and it's going to get all the stations right away. But the effort isn't much. It's only maybe like $100, $200, an hour or two of work. and you get free channels for life. But yet people will just keep paying, hundreds of dollars a month for the service that's free.
Because and the way I think about the whole antenna stuff was, if you're 30, 45, if you're about 60 or 70 miles, the signals get weak. If you get what I'm saying. But if you're using like a good, strong, like a Channel Master or a Clearstream, or Win, or was that called, what they call that, WinX or something, Winout? Like WinGuard. WinGuard.
WinGuard's another one.
WinGuard's another one, yeah. And then Telebus, which I heard A10 Men has now on his roof. I heard he has it on his roof. And, a lot of people here where I live does not use antennas. They all use like Dish or Direct. There's one person that lives all the way down there who uses a Clearstream down there. They use just a single one. And I saw it because I was thinking about the whole antenna stuff again, because I watch your channel a lot, trying to find some stuff, and the big thing is, that's the VHF and UHF elements. If you get what I'm saying, they're so VHF is kind of hard to get. I know they go over mountains easily, correctly.
Yeah, VHF. So VHF has more disadvantages than advantages. The only advantage it really has is that the wavelengths tend to bend over terrain a little bit better than UHF, but that doesn't mean the signal is necessarily stronger, because it's very noisy and it requires a lot of gain. The average person, at least, from what I've read from my comments, they don't want a big antenna. They start with a small antenna, like a Clearstream, which isn't a bad antenna for strong, or that. But when you just have one itty bitty VHF dipole and there's a lot of trees around, there's a mountain around, it's not going to grab the signal. You're going to need, YAG with multiple elements. VHF is a problem nationwide. Unfortunately, our country still uses it because it sold a big chunk of UHF spectrum to cell phone companies. They'll probably do it again at some point. But regardless, it's still achievable as long as a person does their research and purchases an antenna with good VHF gain.
And I do want to go into the question about, a couple of different preamps you suggest or anything. I know I have the TV preamp one that's going with my Digital Advantage 100. The reason I got that one was it does have the LTE filter in it for the cell phone signals, the 5G stuff that's going on around here.
Yeah,
there's just a tower just down the road from me, right over here, and I'm afraid. That's why I'm using the preamp, just to get that out of the way. The FM trap, it says on it. Because there's one FM signal. There's actually two that's near me here too. Mm-hmm. And that's the big problem about stuff. I'm scared about those FM signals destroying. But let's talk about what kind of preamps do you actually suggest, to people?
Sure. So I first try to make it clear that an amplifier only makes up for signal loss in a long cable. It does not magically bring in channels that are not being picked up from the antenna. So I see people with junk antennas trying to put up a whole bunch of amplifiers, connect a bunch of amplifiers to them. And it's like, no, that's not going to magically bring in the station. So with that aside, as I said, the most important aspect of an antenna setup is the antenna itself. But amplifiers do improve reception in a lot of cases, especially if there's a longer coax cable run. And there's no magic number in terms of how long it is, and do you need a preamp if the coax cable 75 feet? It all depends how strong weak the signals are, quality coax, how many TVs you're connected. With that being said, the amplifiers I typically recommend are ones made by reputable US-based antenna companies and ones with filters built into them. As you said, 5G interference, FM interference, that can impact TV reception. It's not a guarantee that if you have a cell tower across the street, that's the reason why a channel isn't coming in, but it certainly doesn't hurt to have them built in. So the Channel Master preamp one that you mentioned is a good amplifier. Televis also makes one with automatic gain control. For the most part, the preamps, those are the only two ones I recommend, because the other ones are older and they don't have the filters built into them, or they have a failure rate where they fail after a few years.
Like the Omni ones?
The On ones, yeah, the On ones fail after a few years. I used to install them and stopped installing them because I got callbacks from people saying that I don't get my channels anymore because they failed. The WineGuard one is hit or miss. There's no filter in it, so I don't really recommend
But there's
that one.
there's an app for the WineGuard one.
Yeah, that is the advantage of that, is it has that signal meter app. So I always tell people, you can purchase the signal meter separately from the amplifier if you want.
The way on the Roku TVs, what you can do, there is a signal meter on there. On the Roku, it just shows bars and stuff. Like usually on this antenna, which I have here on the TV right here, this RCA one, the RCA, the 55 mile one.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing: if I put it close to my computer, my signals go out. So
yeah,
don't do that.
Interfere. Yeah, computers will interfere with reception.
And I get 3 bars usually on the Fox and 4 bars on the NBC. It just varies, you know.
So there is if you have a Roku TV, if you go on Google or YouTube and type in Roku secret signal meter, I'm actually going to try to make a video on it at some point. You can you press a few buttons and it brings up detailed signal information. So it'll show you the SNR, which is the signal to noise ratio of a TV station. So it's more than just bars. You'll see real-time signal data.
You know, and here's the thing. I was just suggesting, and that's why I meant during this interview, I was just suggesting, would you be able to do the Digital Advantage 100, like do a review on it or something? Because I didn't see that on the channel for a while.
You did ask about that one, and that's something I will definitely consider. Other things I look into when I review outdoor antennas is 2 things: is how well is the antenna being marketed, and is the antenna going to be discontinued? I have concerns that Channel Master, because they've been pushing their Pro model, that they might have stopped making it. They still have some in stock, but I don't want to review an antenna where like if I review the antenna and that's out of stock, it makes me look bad, and I just wasted, a lot of money on the antenna and time spent on the video and all that. So it'll depend, but I'll definitely consider it.
Yeah, and the big thing is with the new mount that's going on, the mount I got was the universal antenna mount.
Yes.
I know I saw a video that you pick apart your satellite and you can put your antenna on top of the satellite dish or the holder, right? Correct?
Yeah, I made a video about that, and the pole of the universal mast, if the one the satellite's on isn't long enough, you can switch that out from the base of the satellite dish pole.
And what you can grab like the universal antenna mount pole. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that I've done that before in the past. I actually recommend that mast for a lot of people who sign up for the service I have.
And the thing I did, what we did was it wouldn't just go straight up. That was the problem with that antenna mast we were using. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't go straight up. It would go this way. That's why I had to put the antenna on top of it, pointing that way.
I've had that happen before. Sometimes you got to get a certain pole with a certain angle for it to go straight up. Otherwise, it's like that.
Yeah, that was the big problem with ours. We had to put it like that, but I think we'll get it. We'll get the signal's fine once we do that. The whole thing, fine. Because we know what. Because here's the thing: where it's at, it's pointing straight up. There's not any triggers. The power line right there, and it's going. It'll be probably just going over.
Well, that's all right. Sometimes, if the signals are strong enough. I used to at my old location, I had a Yagi, and Yagis are usually supposed to be focused like this. It was like this, and it worked fine, just the way the elements were picking up the signal. Sometimes, it's not to say you want your antenna pointing up to the sky, but in some cases, it's not a problem if the signals are strong enough.
Yeah, and if the signals are strong enough for like that preamp and stuff, it'll put the channel. It'll get more channel, but it may increase number of channels. That's what it said. But there wasn't a official review on the TV preamp one. There wasn't really I know you did some others with the 5G filter on them,
mm-hmm.
but I haven't really seen like the TV amp preamp one. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the preamp one I thought I did review, but maybe I didn't.
You did the other ones, like the one.
Yeah, I did the other ones, so that's definitely something I would like to do at some point. What the problem is right now, it's the dead of winter in the Northeast, so I'm looking outside
and it's 36 degrees here like crazy, and we just had snow. And
yeah, I'm not reviewing anything out on my roof for several months, but that's definitely, I have one on me. I mean, I do have that model, so I thought I had reviewed it, but it's possible I didn't. I mean, you may be right. I just thought I reviewed it, just put it off, because the reality is I actually haven't reviewed an outdoor antenna in about 1.5 years, because it is a big hassle to do
put it up.
It's not only that. I actually don't live at the location where I used to review the antennas. So what I have to do is I have to contact the people who live there and say, hey, can I go on your roof and review antennas? And I have to bring all the antennas in my car. I have to, go up on the roof. I have to test the stuff. And if something goes wrong, like the capture card, if that doesn't capture the signal or something happens, I have to do it again. And it's not just like I shouldn't be complaining. It's part of the job. It's not that I go in my backyard and put them up. It's a lot more of a hassle, and that's why I haven't done them. What's ironic is I actually purchased about 4 different outdoor antennas and was going to review them in October, but I accidentally gave the 5G filter I used to someone in the area when they needed it for whatever reason. So it took me a while to get a new filter. It took about a week, and by the time I got the filter, it started snowing, and it was a game over at that point.
Do you think Disney's pretty much screwed us over? Do you think they pretty much screwed us over the whole ABC thing?
So Disney, what they did is in your market, it's actually, they don't have anything to do with the ABC station besides the affiliation. But across the country, yes, Disney, they have done pretty much little to no effort to improve the signal coverage of their stations, and most of them are on the VHF band. Now, I'm not sure 100% if this was intentional as a way to get people to cable satellite. I have my suspicions. The other side of the story is that they were worried about the RF channel showing up as the virtual channel on a TV, and it would compromise their brand. So in the 90s or 2000s, it was possible that some TVs, if you tune to, for example, let's say 6ABC was on RF channel 35, it would show up as channel 35 and cause mass confusion among people in the market. Why is it channel 35? Is this ABC 35 now? That ended up not being true and didn't really happen. So, and it kind of blows my mind because there were other TV stations were new to go on the UHF band. NBC, CBS, and Fox, most of their O&Os are on the UHF band with the exception of a few in certain crowded markets. ABC, on the other hand, the Disney-owned ABC stations, they just stayed on the VHF band. What kind of annoys me is the nearly endless resources that Disney has as a company has done very little to improve the cause. Yes, in some markets they have, but 6ABC in Philadelphia, for example, you can't tell me that what's laughable. Listen to this story. The laughable situation is that the Disney-owned ABC station in Philadelphia on low VHF channel 6, somehow with the $70 billion in revenue they generate, they could not come up with a solution. They couldn't come up with a channel sharing agreement with another station in the market. But this nonprofit, low-powered religious station happened to come up with an agreement. They were on the VHF band. They came up with an agreement to simulcast on a UHF station in the market before Disney could. It just goes to show it's about the money. It's not about serving the viewers.
If you ever heard of this whole question, it was announced about Monday the 13th, like last week. You know the Atlanta Braves, the baseball team, Atlanta Braves, right?
I don't follow baseball, but I've heard about them.
Okay, so recently they announced a schedule for spring training across the broadcast TV. That includes over-the-air TV as well. And they do have it in a couple markets here. I got a picture of it here. I'll show my screen here. What I was talking about. And I'll share my screen and I'll show you what I was talking about. They announced, Monday about the 10 spring games finally being on TV, streaming TV, like Spartanburg, Atlanta. And I was wondering that signal right there, the WPCH channel, I looked it up. It's an ATS 3.0 channel. It's an ATS 3. And, here where I'm at, I can't get that channel. That's the problem with that one. But with the antenna I have, the 100-mile antenna, I might be able to get with that 100-mile looking thing I got. You get what I'm saying, the digital advantages and all that. I know you did the Advantage 100.
Yes, I did the Advantage 100. The only difference between that and the digital Advantage is the Advantage has low VHF elements. It was one of the first antennas I reviewed, but the reality is in most areas there aren't low VHF channels, Philadelphia and New York aside. So sometimes a smaller antenna more optimized for the UHF band will work better than a large VHF optimized antenna.
I was wondering because when I put together the new antenna I got, the Digital Advantage 100, it was 7 foot long. It was big. It was 7 foot.
Yeah, it's at least 7 feet. I mean, I stood up the regular Advantage next to me, and it was taller than me.
But is the digital Advantage larger, or is it medium? Because I couldn't really get that whole thing.
It's the length of the elements. So the Advantage has about the wider VHF elements. They're about 6 feet wide to cover low VHF. The digital Advantage, they're about 3 feet wide to cover high VHF. So the main difference is that one's more optimized for the high VHF UHF band, while the Advantage 100 covers low VHF.
So I'll probably be able to get ABC instantly. Probably.
Getting out of market channels is always very tricky because there's specific contours.
I'm actually in market with.
Oh, you're in market.
I'm able to get WYFF4 and Fox Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
That's Greenville, Spartanburg's our area for TV. Atlanta's not. We don't.
That's
get
what
Atlanta.
I meant. I was going to say, if you're trying to get Atlanta, it's always hard if you're out of market.
It's hard. It's hard to get Atlanta. You can't get Atlanta here. It really sucks.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people watch Channel 2 Action News 8 WSB TV. Here at my home, they love ABC to death. That's how they watch their news, Good Morning America, and all that stuff. I watch CBS more often than I do ABC. I watch CBS.
It's always
more.
funny, the markets, because it varies by market. Like in the Scranton Wilkes-Barre market I grew up at, and it was ABC dominated because we had a powerhouse news station, WNEP. And it's the same in Philadelphia, 6 ABC Action News. Yet you go to Pittsburgh, I think KDAKA, which is CBS affiliate, is the leader. Altoona Johnstown next over, WTAJ is the leader. So it varies depending on the market, but you're correct. It's interesting how some areas it's like ABC is we follow, and then CBS.
And I was down in South Georgia, so I was down South Georgia in St. Simons, Georgia, the beach. I decided to bring my antenna with me, and I was able to get a couple of stations down in Jacksonville, Florida. A couple stations down there in Florida, just across the line from where I'm at. So I'm near a lot. I'm near a lot of states all together. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'm actually looking forward to, I didn't announce to my channel, but if any of the viewers are watching this, they get a surprise. I'm actually moving to Pittsburgh, and what's cool about the location I'm moving to is it's surrounded by 4 different markets. So you have Pittsburgh, but then you have Altoona Johnstown to the east. You have Youngstown, Ohio to the northwest. You have Steubenville, Ohio, Wheeling, West Virginia to the southwest, and then Morgantown, West Virginia to the south. So there's multiple markets, and it's kind of cool. I ran the reception report at the house I put an offer in at, and it has, I could get 3 or 4 different Fox affiliates or 3 or 4 different NBC affiliates. And it's kind of cool to be in that scenario because you have choice. You're not just at the mercy of the local TV stations, which aren't necessarily bad. They provide good programming.
I am.
Yeah, but what I actually looked up is I looked up the bit rate on rabbitears.info to see what Fox station, if there's going to be an NFL game or something on one of the channels, which one will have the highest bit rate, the best picture quality out of all of them.
And honestly, I think when my area, I don't think I'll be able to get CBS here. I really don't, because it's 71 miles away.
See, yeah, WSPA is tricky. I've run reception reports in your area plenty of times, and it's always the 2 issues are either WLOS or WSPA, depending on where exactly the person is located.
Like where I'm located, WSPA's fair signal for me, but if I can't get that channel, I think I'm able to get WLOS. I got another way is if you can't watch CBS, if you still have like a cable provider you're paying for or something, you can get the if you have a Roku TV, you can get the CBS app on the Roku TV, and you can put your TV provider in there. Like if you want to get like a small TV provider, you can get a small one. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and a lot of people used to do that. It's funny, in the late 2000s, early 2010s, most people's parents had a cable subscription, so they would just either go online, usually on the internet, and just sign in with the parents' cable credentials and get access to local channels. Since then, it's kind of shifted to like YouTube TV, but they now use geo restrictions where they can tell if you're outside the area, and sometimes you can't access it out of the market.
So the way it is I have the CBS regular app on my Roku TV. and all I did was sign in with the TV provider, and then got CBS. But I got the Atlanta CBS, not the Greenville. What the problem is, I used to have Hulu back then, and here's the thing. This is the little crazy part about Hulu. I would get most of the South Carolina channels, but one Atlanta channel, one Atlanta.
That's weird.
It is really weird. I only got one Atlanta channel. I had to call when I had Hulu. I had to call them. It's like, can you block South Carolina? Just don't get Atlanta as of where I'm at. And they blocked it for me, and I got only Atlanta when I did that.
Interesting. Yeah, I know a lot of times that has to do with the end market stations. If there's a retransmission dispute, they used to substitute an out of market station, but they don't do that anymore. I mean, the government that's supposed to protect us ends up hurting us by prohibiting that now. So they have to negotiate with end market channels. But it used to be if there was an issue with the end market channel, the cable or satellite subscription or company would just substitute, the next market over ABC while they worked it out.
Yeah, so that was the big thing about the whole antenna, everything else. But that's the only way you can get, like CBS or anything like that now here where I'm at. But you can't get it. You can't get WSPA because it's 71 miles away. It's so far away. The transmitter they used to be an original spot where I can get it, but they moved their transmitter so back forward, like in the Spartanburg area.
Mm-hmm.
They moved it back in 2019. And you didn't know they moved it back in 2019, correctly? If you knew about that.
I didn't know about it. I mean, I wasn't doing as many of the antenna recommendations back then, and I didn't really keep as much of an eye on it. But a lot of times when the stations move, ultimately, they do want to improve coverage in their area, as crazy as it sounds. And in some cases, there are winners and losers. They'll move to a higher amount, and it helps 90% of people, but then 10% of people end up in a situation where they lose a channel. That happens.
Because I was looking at WMMYA, and it was a while back, and they said I was talking to a technician on the phone. I talked to a technician about last week or so about the ATS3, and she said, I don't care about over-the-air viewers. She straight up said that on the phone with me. So I don't get it.
A lot of them don't, and it's understandable because over-the-air viewers are only about 10 to 15% of their viewers, depending on the market. And a lot of the employees deal with a lot of rude viewers that accuse them of turning down the signal or something if they don't get the station in. I'm sure it's a lot of angry callers, so I kind of get that. But at the same time, they really need to start embracing it, because if broadcast TV doesn't make it easy for people to access their signals, they're going to end up in the dust. I mean, they're going to basically end up like AM radio is right now, where there's very few people listening to it. And at some point, there's going to be no listeners left. No viewers left of broadcast TV if they don't make it easy for people to access.
And the big thing, I'm able to. It's an LD. What I was wondering about that, because I know there's a TV and then there's an LD. That's the low power stations, isn't it?
Yeah, LD are low powered. They're licensed by the FCC to cover a certain area. They used to be in, when they started in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Even into the 2000s, they used to be cool, locally owned independent stations that had interesting program, and now they're mainly junk channels. I call them. I mean, it's like home shopping networks or Nosy or something like that. Sometimes they're MeTV, which is great, but the majority of them are junk channels.
And the channels I can get now here is WYFF4. That's NBC4, and that's in like our service area where you can get it. Mm-hmm. We're in like a green kind of area, kind of. But it's all like populated and stuff with a bunch of red, yellow, and all that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I like how long had you used Rabbit Ears? I know you used to use the DTV site, if I can remember.
Yeah, I've used Rabbit Ears for about 5 years. Before, I used to use AntennaWeb.org and TV Fool, but there's problems with both of them that I didn't discover until later on. So some of my earlier videos, you'll see me mention TV Fool and AntennaWeb.org, and people say, "Oh, you said to use them." I'm like, no, don't use them. AntennaWeb.org is bad because I won't say it's bad, but it can be bad because it tends to underestimate the number of channels that can be picked up in a given location and lead the person to believe they won't get any channels. And then TV Fool should not be used in any circumstance because TV Fool, the database
I did this.
Yeah, Yeah, people look at that and they think it's great, but most of that information is not accurate. It's incorrect because the database they pull from is from 2017 before the FCC repack. So nearly all those stations that are listed on there are no longer on those frequencies, have different patterns. They might not even be on the air anymore. So that's the thing. Like, don't use TV fool.
And the thing is with the rabbit ears, the CBS, I was talking the WSPA signal. I'm outside the red line, so I'm like in a yellowish kind of area right here.
Well, that I could tell that's actually good terrain where you're at. If you get yellow, that's actually you're lucky. It doesn't mean if you're outside those numbers. All they mean, those are the contours the FCC licenses them at. So it says within the first red line, it should be this signal. Within the second red line or second line, it should be that signal. You can get a good signal outside those lines if the terrain's high enough, and that's the case for you. But if you those circles and stuff, that's just what the FCC says that's your area. This is where you're protected. And the area you're in is what's not as protected. So you could have another out of market station provide interference in there. But within the other line, they have
CBS does not reach over here, the WANF station.
Yeah.
It doesn't reach in there, but I might be able to get this ABC, this WSB TV in Gainesville.
So what I do is if you go back, what I always click on is I don't ever even look at that. What I click on is you see the transmitter distance hyperlink. So scroll down. No, scroll down. See, you're right over it. Click on that.
Okay.
This is cool because it shows you the actual signal path diagram. I feel like this is more important. So that kind of diagram, this is what I look at every single day when I do these reception reports. That's almost line of sight. There's a little bit of terrain between it, but you can see the signal is going to pretty much travel there.
So right here is their signal right here?
Yep, that's their broadcast tower, and then your house is all the way on the right. So with the weaker signals, that's what I look at. So if you click on the Atlanta signal,
Atlanta signal, yeah. Well,
yeah, the Atlanta station you're trying to pick up, or why
see here, right here.
Yeah, see, so it's the same thing. There's a little bit of terrain between, but that's not going to block it. It's just going to frack the light a little bit or the signals, so you can still pick them up.
That's why I got the preamp just in case this happened.
Yep. But I look at that, so that's always important to look at.
Yeah, I got the preamp just in case because of that problem and stuff. You get what I'm saying? I got the preamp just in case that problem because I might be able to get it.
You should get it. You should get it. That's a reachable signal. I mean, if I saw that on a reception report, I would assume
it's a poor signal. It's a poor signal, but looking at the map, it's average, but it's 44 miles away from me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm outside of the blue and red.
I know you're outside those lines, but you still see those pockets of red. You can still get the signal, and these are predictions at the end of the day. In real life scenarios, sometimes you'll end up getting stations that aren't predicted to be picked up at your location. Like you should see the terrain of one station I pick up. It looks like I don't stand a chance, but I do get it.
This is that station I was talking about, the WMYA station.
Yep,
I was talking about. And it's 5098. It's a DB signal.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I was talking about. And I'm in the pockets for it, but not really.
Yeah, when signals are weak like that, you have to put like a good effort into trying different locations for the antenna because the signals are going to scatter in different areas. So you probably could get it, but it would take like scanning the roof and moving.
I know it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, it would be.
And honestly, and I know the CBS channel we might be able to get finally. I know right now I'm able to get NBC4. WFF4.
Oh, yeah, it's a strong signal.
And WHNS, that's the Fox signal. I was able to get it on this right here. Able on the indoor right now. I have the antenna. I have the cords. I just have to put it through the house and stuff. But I bought one of those. I bought a coax cable, like shielded, the triple shield or something, or the quad shield cables for about $26. And it was a 100-foot one I bought. The reason I did that was I have to go through the house with it into where I'm going at with the preamp stuff going on, just to get the signal better.
Yeah, it's important to use a good quality cable. I think most people know that, thankfully.
I hope so, because some people don't.
No, a lot don't. That's why it's one of my most watched videos.
I know. Here's the little scary part about this. So sometimes I'm able to get 3 PBS channels here, which is the creepiest thing.
Yeah, that's coming in a lot of areas because PBS stations tend to really want to serve their communities. Some exceptions.
So I'm actually able to get the PBS channel from North Carolina here sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I also get 2 more PBSs here. Actually, 4. Actually, 4 of them. 4 PBSs at the same time. It's like, why am I getting so many PBSs? I don't like PBS.
The PBS stations are non-commercial, so they tend to want to serve their viewers more than the multi-billion-dollar corporations that own the major networks.
See, I get the North Carolina PBS. I also get the GPB out in Atlanta sometimes. I get the GPB. That's Georgia Public Broadcasting.
I get 3 PBS stations myself near where I'm at. I don't watch them, but I get them.
I won't watch them. I won't. And then there's a couple of translators I know of.
I used to make the joke that I use PBS to go to sleep. The content was so boring. I'm sure it varies by market. I'm sure some markets have exciting content, but by me, it's incredibly boring.
So this is the WSPA signal. That was. I might be able to get that.
Yeah, that's line of sight. It's low powered, so it's going to take some maneuvering, but I think it's possible.
It's possible for me to get the TBS to work. Okay, that'd be great. Because honestly, I was scared about this whole thing, the over-the-air stuff. Because I used this one before, and literally every time a rainstorm comes around, it goes out.
Yeah, those don't have much gain. You're almost guaranteed double or triple the amount of channels by using an outdoor antenna,
like the Digital Advantage 100.
Yep.
And then that's the big thing about it. But so I was going to ask, what is the website for people to get recommendations and stuff like that?
Sure. So my website is antennamanpa.com. I think most people watching, they follow my videos, they've seen me mention it. But yeah, I pretty much run the reception report, which most people can do, but I interpret it, and I can typically tell what antenna is needed, what stations will come in. And for a lot of people that are afraid, they think, oh, an antenna won't work in my area. I don't want to pay this guy to tell me it's not going to work. I can actually tell you straight up if it's not going to work, and then you don't pay anything. I mean, that's happened in a few cases, probably maybe 3 to 4% of cases, not often, but it does happen where I say, it doesn't look too good. But the majority of Americans can get all their local channels with the correct antenna.
Like a Digital Advantage 100 or something like that?
Yeah, I typically recommend the LR Mix, the Televis one, because it has the preamplifier built into it, and it's got automatic gain control. So it's a little step up. Your setup isn't bad at all. It's actually pretty comparable. But in some locations, if adding, for example, let's say if adding the preamp 1 made reception worse by over-amplifying a certain channel, the Televis can actually detect over-amplification and lower the gain so that station isn't wiped out.
Is that completely wiped out?
Yeah. Well, by wipe out, what I mean is, let's say a signal's just barely over the noise floor where it's barely being picked up, and adding amplification adds noise. So some amplifiers are cleaner than others. So if you have a high gain amplifier, what it can do is can increase the noise floor so much that it wipes out the channel and the channel's no longer picked up.
So if I put, because I know I have the WLS sound I'm trying to get right now, that signal has already been approved. It was already approved recently. The new tower location.
Yeah,
it was already approved a while back. I should begin to get they approved at the beginning of the year, because I have access to the FCC records wise, because I'm actually building an LP here soon enough.
Oh, you are?
Low power station, like an FM station.
Nice.
I'm building a low power FM station here.
That's great. Congrats.
It's country station. And I'm able to access records sometimes on the FCC site. I know with the new commissioner that just came through, the new one that just got elected today or so. I know today was inauguration day, all that.
Yeah.
And it's the same guy who worked for the Biden administration and the Trump administration when he was around,
Well, yeah, he's been appointed to chair, and one thing I should mention about the new I don't know why the word's blanking, but the new positions of power and stuff like that, the new administration, that's what I wanted to say, is Brandon Carr was with the FCC before, but he was not the commissioner. The commissioner during the last administration seemed to be more on the side in terms of over-the-air TV. She seemed to have an interest in making sure no viewers were left behind with ATSC 3.0 conversion. She seemed to want to not force ATSC 3.0. Unfortunately, it seems to be the opposite with Brendan Carr. And again, I'm not going to speak for him because I haven't really talked to him, but my understanding is that he's more of a pro broadcast guy and is more likely to do what the broadcasters want. Now, he can't just say ATSC 1.0 shut down. There has to be an act of Congress and such. But what he can do is relax a simulcast requirement where if a station launches 3.0, they don't necessarily have to simulcast in 1.0 or at least in the same picture quality. I don't think that's going to happen right away. And if it does happen, I don't think stations are going to do it right away. It would be their advertisers would be furious if they shut down 1.0.
And with the ATS3, I wish the FCC would ask them to up their power a little bit. I've asked about that before with a technician, and I wish you guys would ask them to up the power just a little bit more, just to reach some of the service area.
Well, it's a good point that you make about that. So there's a reason why they can't up the power. What happened is when the FCC and Congress sold a bunch of TV spectrum to cell phone companies, you now have in different markets TV stations on the same RF channel. And you can't have them too powerful or else they would interfere with each other for people who live in between them. So the end result is the power limits were cut by about 75% during the digital transition, which really kind of deprived stations the power of covering their areas. So, but yeah, you're correct. In theory, yes, they should have more power, but the FCC doesn't authorize it because if they did, they would just overpower each other because they sold too much spectrum to cell phone companies.
Yeah, because here's the thing: ADC 13 should really have some more power on that station.
Oh,
honestly,
for sure. The
VHF it's not affecting Channel 2. It's not affecting Channel 2 at all. Like, what's the point? It's not going to affect Channel 2. ABC.
What you would have to do is you have to see the RF channel they're on, and you have to see how many stations surrounding you are on that. And it's probably not the one next to you, but the one next to the one you're next to. What they're concerned about is if they're too powerful, these two stations on the same channel, people who live in between won't receive either.
Yeah, that was the big problem with that. And, with the new ATS3 standard, they need to add more translators for this stuff because honestly, with this new signal coming out, the ATS3 comes out and stuff, they put it on one of those stations. That's not a good idea because honestly, they should be putting it on like a regular WANF should have it. ATS3. That'd be local to our area. But it has all the channels on one,
Yeah, and that's what they would like to do. The thing is, the FCC requires when they do that, there's a certain, it's hard to explain, but there's like a 95% coverage requirement. They have to make sure that the 1.0 stations that are displaced cover the market comparable to the station that's launching 3.0. So if they launch it on the most powerful station that's, let's say, more powerful than any other station in the market, they're not going to be able to fulfill that 95% requirement.
There's two translators. There's a couple translators around where I'm able to get this WLS finally. I'm able to go on their main transmitter, not their translator. That's the good thing about this. I know the new ATS 3.0. It's a little bit. So some of the channels are like one channel is encrypted. Like WIFF4, it's encrypted. The rest of them are not. There's one encrypted. They're not all encrypted. Mm-hmm. As what I looked on when I was looking at the list on Wikipedia.
Yep.
There was a list on Wikipedia that has all the TV stations around. And when I was looking at that station, guess who controls that ATS 3.0? WMYA controls it. And there was only one encryption lock on one of them, WIFF4, which I'm able regularly on the ATS 1.0, I'm able to get great on here. And that's how I get my forecast, everything else NBC wise.
So I'm looking that up. I looked it up. There's a reason. So Hearst, that station is owned by Hearst, and they're one of the companies that are encrypting the signals. So it's usually a company policy, corporate policy. Hearst is one of them. CBS is one of them. NBC, the O&Os are one of them. Nexstar hasn't done it yet. I forget.
Nexstar's done it. Nexstar's with WMYA.
They're not WYFF. WYFF is Hearst, and Hearst has this policy where if their 3.0 signal, any of their stations, they add the encryption.
Yeah, but then when WLS doesn't have one on it, so that's the thing.
Well, it's because it's a different owner on the Lighthouse. I get what you're saying; they own the whole thing, but it's like it's complicated to say the least.
It's very complicated. It's the thing about the whole ATS 3.0, it's a new standard. I know it's a new standard, but honestly, when they go to this ATS 3, they should keep both in case, you know?
And they will. There's going to be, even when the transition happens, quote unquote, the it's not like the digital transition. The reason why analog was shut off is because there wasn't enough room for both 1.0 and analog when the government sold TV spectrum. They sold channels 52 through 69. There simply wasn't enough room to do both. There was before they sold it, but when they sold it, they made everyone go down. Until they sell it again, they don't have any motivation or incentive to say you have to do 3.0 over 1.0. And there probably will be stations that never have it. I mean, you go look at Milwaukee. 3.0 isn't live in Milwaukee. None of the stations are interested in it.
I don't really think the WLOS or WYFF4, Fox Carolina is going to do that, I don't think they're ever going to do that. But the good thing is, that all those sub channels, like, good Lord, I'm not really a big fan of the sub channels.
They're mostly pay to play. I mean, most of them, the networks pay the TV stations to carry them. So it's not like what's the best station, what's the best network that our viewers would like. Because if that was the case, you would see MeTV and MeTV Tunes in every market on a station.
I had to get because I couldn't get MeTV Tunes on my over the air. That's why I had to go to Finley for that crap.
A lot of people can't. But what it is it's like QVC approaches the TV station saying, "Hey, we'll pay you $3,000 a month plus commission if you carry our junk channel." And then the same thing goes with Nosy. Like most of the stations,
Antenna TV and stuff like that.
Yeah, most of the sub channels pay for carriage on a TV station. So it's mainly a way for the TV station to make money. It's not so much what's best for our viewers. It hasn't been that way for a while. It's about what's making us money.
And then that's the really big thing about the whole the TV spectrum. I was looking through everything. I know I get WYFF4 in Fox Carolina here. I know I keep repeating myself. I've been so fascinated with antennas since I've watched you and then watched Lions and everything else. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've been watching you like constantly on YouTube. I watch pretty much every video you release.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I always do it. And I got this antenna from my dad for Christmas because I told him I'm getting rid of YouTube TV at the end of the month. I'm about over and done with the whole YouTube TV crap show. It's going to from $73 to $83, $10 more. And when I went to go cancel it, it's like, do you want to save $60? And keep your price the same,
Yeah, I saw. I got that too because my father has YouTube TV in his area. He doesn't get all the channels reliably. It's literally where I grew up. I had to experiment with the antennas because it was so bad. But no, I think most people who have YouTube TV can get their local channels. Now, they might not have gotten it the first try. They shouldn't give up. It blows my mind how easily people give up on antennas while willingly throwing their money down the toilet to pay for them.
Yeah, and the good thing about Sling is they don't offer local channels on there.
They don't. In some markets they do, but only in like big markets.
If you have like one of these and you get a Sling subscription, like I'm looking about getting the orange and blue together. That would come with everything else, and then I just get my local channels like CW and stuff like that. And then the good thing is, I was looking back the broadcasting. NASCAR correctly, right? Like everyone watches NASCAR. A lot of people do.
Yeah.
The whole Xfinity series is going to be on CW. Every one of them. It's going to be on CW.
I saw that, and I'm very proud of the CW. So Nexstar bought out the CW about a year ago, and maybe a little bit longer. It might have been 2 years ago. And the CW for the longest time was what I considered a flop. It was not really. I didn't know what it was. I guess they had like some superhero shows and some kind of like I don't know what they had, but it was not. It was a flop. It wasn't anything. They weren't making money. And Nexstar bought out, and now they're putting a lot of live sports on it, which is really the move to do.
And I was looking at the instructions. I had the instructions right here on my table for the air too. And the really good part about this, if you want to share it with like a friend or something, you can have one device streaming outside the network, right? That's right.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do with my father because he doesn't get MeTV on YouTube TV. So I have my antenna connected to an Air TV in my house, and he's able to access it in his house, totally different location, right in the same app, using the same account.
So if there's only one streaming on this, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, you can only stream. So there's two. I believe there's two tuners built in. You can access one inside the house and one outside the house. The broadcasters are trying to put an end to that. So that's another reason why I urge people to contact their representatives about DRM encryptions, because you're not going to be able to access out of the house if it takes off.
Yeah, that's what YouTube just did. That YouTube TV screwed us up for that crap. Now they're putting like Hulu does now and stuff. They if you use it for one location, you have to change the location. TV. You know.
That's unfortunate, because I know for the longest time, even recently, YouTube TV, you could, if you went somewhere, just said, "Are you there temporarily?" Temporarily.
Yeah, they're changing that.
Oh, that's not going to be good. I mean, that'll stop. That's what that's going to do is a lot of people my age and younger, they're using their parents' YouTube TV account when they travel or go to college, or if they're living somewhere else. They're not going to be able to piggyback on it. And I hope they use an antenna and don't just pay for the service themselves.
And then some people can't use it. Well, if you're in like a small town, you know, like a little North Georgia town. So I'm actually near the Appalachian Germantown, Helen, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandmother used to be a city councilor. She was 90 when she became city councilor. And it was a big old history month, you know, all this whole thing. It was a thing.
Yeah.
She recently, I made her switch actually to an antenna when I was at her house, because she was paying about probably $180 a month for Dish Network.
Yeah, and a lot of people are. As I said, it's reaching a breaking point where it's just people are not. Yes, they might have paid. They were willing to pay $60 for YouTube TV, $73. They're $83 is too much, at least for a lot of people. It should be enough. $2 should be too much for most people, because that's just paying for something that's free. But the reality is people are paying for it. And as long as they keep paying for it, the system's not going to collapse. And people just need to stop paying for it.
Honestly, I think they should stop paying for it. You know, the new prices just came through. I know I still have it for this is my last week on YouTube TV. Next Wednesday, not this week, but next Wednesday, it'll be going out. And that's why I got the antenna figured. I had to get the antenna already up and stuff. Had to put it up.
Yeah, and I got a lot of people who signed up for my service right after YouTube TV increased their rates, and I'm glad they did. I give props to anyone who takes a step, because it's a lot of unknowns and it's a lot of confusion, and you don't get it right the first time. And that's the thing, is I don't want too many people give up. I mean, I had one person set up an antenna and they're like, "Oh, it doesn't work. I want it taken down." It's like, dude, no, you got to do a little bit more than just put up a mass point and hope for the best. Sometimes you have to check different locations. Sometimes you have to get a better tuner. Sometimes you have to, get a different antenna. There's certain things you have to do.
Like the Air 2 TV is a pretty good tuner.
Yeah, Air TV has been pretty decent tuner sensitivity. I think it's all right.
And this was probably about $80 on Amazon.
You can get them cheaper on eBay. You probably get them for 40 or 50.
I got them $80. It was on that. It was actually supposed to be $99 on Amazon. It was on sale. It was on sale at Christmas time when I got this. And
Nice.
And recently, what I have to do now is I have to go into my crawl space and put my line through when I get that amp put in. I already had the amp on top of the thing, the coax cable. What I did, because you know how a coax cable comes with that amp, right?
Yeah.
What we did, we took the coax cable that's supposed to go for the amp and put it into that antenna and put it into that thing. And then I have another coax cable for it, like a 100-foot one, to plug into the power.
Yeah, the power inserter.
Yeah, power inserter for the DC AC power inserter.
Yep.
I can use the included cable, but it's only 6 foot and just works better using it for the antenna. And the problem is, if the wire is hitting any of the elements, their signal will go out correctly.
Yep. That's a problem I saw with the Advantage 100 when I reviewed it. Is the balun, the thing that connects the coax. If one of those
it's loose
lines, if it touches the elements, it throws off the whole thing. So you need to make sure that's not touching them.
I made sure if it's not touching, because we have the amp hooked up right under it.
Good.
When I did this, and I'm thinking about it's hanging loosely right now, but we're thinking of putting zip ties over it.
Zip ties work well.
And just over it, and I know that little wiring's kind of loosey. It took, it almost took almost an hour to put the antenna together. Almost when we put it together, that thing was big.
Yeah, it's a big antenna for sure.
I got it in the mail, and it took almost 3 weeks to get here. My dad ordered like 2 weeks for Christmas, and it took forever to get here. I didn't get the tracking number from my father. It's like, where's it at? I was like, I got the amp a week before I got the antenna.
Should have seen when I was in high school. They used to have cell phones with analog TV tuners built into them, and they were from China, so I'd have to buy it off eBay from China, and it was like so much anticipation because they were the coolest phones. It wasn't just this was at a time when everyone had flip phones, and I had this phone that had an antenna that came out and watched TV on it.
And then and I know you reviewed a certain antenna on your channel. It was recently, but it was the one you plug into an Android and you're on an airplane, going somewhere.
Yeah, that's the Geniatech or MyGica, MYGICA. It's a dongle. It's only like $25, and it works with any Android phone. It's cool. I mean, it's not like
this kind of Android right here. It has like the smaller USB right here.
Most of them have USB-C now at this point. So.
This is just a Nokia, but
yeah, as long as it's got Android, you can just connect it and turn your phone to a TV. The only thing is you got to be in a pretty strong signal area to use the built-in antenna. If you're in like a fair to weak signal area, you'll have to connect it to an external antenna, and at that point, it's like you might as well use your Air TV.
And here's the thing: is because I know you went on an airplane, but you got a channel from all the way in Washington or something.
Yeah. So what happened was I knew that the reason why you don't pick up stations usually beyond like 70, 80 miles of the broadcast tower is because the curvature of the earth. You know, you get further from the broadcast tower, you go further down the curve, and then the horizon just blocks it. So I had the idea of if I'm on an airplane, first of all, with how fast it travels and there's no obstructions in between, can I pick up TV stations and how far away do I pick them up? And I picked up, it wasn't from Washington, it was from upstate New York, and I'm in eastern Pennsylvania. So it was a good, probably 150, 200 miles away. And I double checked, my math and made sure they didn't have like a broadcast repeater somewhere near me. No, it was actually like pretty far away. And it came in for a few minutes and then dipped out.
I keep looking at this like whole site thing I was thinking about, and I keep looking at it. I looked at it almost for the last 2 weeks. I've been looking at the same site. It's called OTA-DTV.com. You ever heard of it?
No, I have not.
It's over-the-air digital TV, and it actually shows the signal, like the signal strength of every TV station. But it's really. And if you let me to show you, if I can.
Sure, go ahead. You can show me.
Okay, yeah, because I was just thinking about it because I've been using this site for just a little bit. I've been using this site just a little bit, or on my area, Mm-hmm. And let me just put this always has to happen. And if I'm like I'm like 70 miles away from the broadcast, I just do 70 because it's easier for everything. When I hit it, and I load it up, and it loads up, it takes for a Windstream lightly. But it does this, which shows all of them at the same time. When you go down, you'll see the signal sync.
Yeah, that's kind of like rabbitears.info. It's just has like it's laid out a little bit different.
And that's their broadcast power too.
Oh yeah, that helps. Like that's good for more tech savvy people. I don't think it's good for the average person because they're going to look at ABC and think, oh, why is it only 50 instead of 1,000? Lower frequencies don't require as much power.
There's only one channel that's UHD. That's why.
Yeah.
And it's 40%. 40%.
That's a different way to show the data. I mean, that's not bad. I hope it's pulling from FCC databases and not like TV Fool database where that information's old. But I think it's more recent if it's showing the ATSC3 signal.
This is why I can't get WSPA. It's 18%.
It thinks it is. I mean, I think you can get it if you put.
I looked at DTV map. It's 18% DTV map.
I think you can get it. If I was in your location, I'd get it.
Yeah. See, I'm able to get channels. 13% ABC. There's two of them. Say there's two ABCs.
So what I've noticed, just so you're aware, when signals are weaker, they just happen to, if they can be picked up, it's just the signals travel in different locations. The wavelengths travel in different locations and are obstructed in different locations. And if you use a TV and an antenna, you move it around, you can eventually find a spot where it's picked up.
Yeah, because honestly, where I have it now, it's just away from the trees area, like where it is. It's on an old, DirecTV mount.
Mm-hmm.
Is it where it is? It's hanging outside my house.
Yeah, a lot of people do that. They'll put it on the DirecTV mount, which again is good and fair to strong signal areas. If a signal is weak, it's possible that where that mast is 5 feet away might be where it's picked up at. And you don't know unless you use a signal meter.
Yeah, because what I'm probably gonna start doing before I plug it up to before I plug it up into this, before I plug it up into this thing right here, I'm gonna signal meter it with the Roku TV.
So the Roku TV, the problem with that is it's hard to tell because you have to like tune the channel and it doesn't always update right away. I like there's a $30 converter box. I'm sure you've seen me mention it in the video.
My neighbor has one. My neighbor has one.
Those are really cool.
My neighbor has one. He has Dish, but he also has they gave him an antenna. Dish did. Dish gave him an antenna and stuff.
Dish used to set up antennas, but then they stopped because what was happening was people would call them to complain when a station wasn't coming in. And then Dish had to end up being, instead of just setting up the satellite dish, they had to be customer service for TV antennas, which they don't want to do. I understand that.
Honestly, when I checked a certain site, when I was on the Antenna Direct site, Dish still set up antennas.
They what they do is they have a separate contractor or a separate like boat where they install antennas. But what I'm saying is when someone gets Dish Network, they no longer have the option to install the antenna with Dish Network. They did it for a bit. What they did is they integrated the antenna system with the Dish Network in case there's a retransmission dispute or something like that. But people were accidentally tuning to the over-the-air signal, which would go in and out at times, and complain to Dish when it went out.
Right, and that's the big thing about when I had Dish, what happened was we didn't get ABC for about 2 years. 2 years. We didn't have ABC for 2 years. And I was so unhappy. Then when YouTube TV came out, I was like, "Hey, Dad, let's just switch over to YouTube TV and we get ABC back." We got rid of. And I'm sick. The one good thing about YouTube TV and Antenna TV, there's no contract with any of them. Dish and Direct is all contract wise.
And I made a video about that. I made a video stating that the blackouts because of retransmission disputes, which is what you had experienced on Dish, those are going to happen more and more often as people cut the cord. What happens is if someone goes from cable and satellite to an antenna, the money that the TV station makes through retransmission fees gets lowered. So in order to offset that, instead of just being a normal person being like, "Oh, I don't make as much money, whatever, it's my fault for not having good programming," they think of the stockholders and say, "Oh, we have to keep that stock going up." So then they go to Dish or whoever and they say, "Well, instead of paying us $1 for the channel, you now have to pay us $2 for a channel." And they say no because that's going to increase the monthly bill of our subscribers, and then they take the channel off. I mean, it's never going to end.
We can't get the regular ABC channel. See, it's so much terrain around. That
might diffract off that mountain. That looks better than the signal that I receive in one location. It's just diffracting in weird locations. So if you actually went on your roof with a small TV with the antenna, moved it around, you would probably get it.
And that's the regular ABC. That's like RF channel 32, all that stuff. ABC 2-1. Here's the thing. I miss the analog. I do. I miss it a lot.
Were you old enough for it when it was around?
I was born around 2005.
Okay, so you're very, very, very young. You probably don't have as much memories as I do about it. It was
my dad and my mom used to have a box TV.
Okay, so and they did have some low powered stations that were still analog for a few years after 2009. But I was old enough that I was a teenager when all the stations were still analog, and it was great because everywhere you went, you just had all these stations that some came in fuzzier than others, but you could always see something.
When did the analog completely, like low power stations, completely go off? Because I didn't really understand that thing.
4 years ago in 2021. So what happened was the digital transition of 2009 only applied to full powered stations. Low powered stations were exempt because a lot of them were lower budget stations that couldn't afford the equipment. And they also weren't really causing problems with the digital stations because they were such low powered. So they originally were going to have them shut down, I think in either 2012 or 2013. And they pushed it back to 2015 for financial reasons. And then when President Obama in 2013 or 2012 authorized the FCC repack where they sold more TV spectrum, they decided didn't make sense to have these TV stations convert to digital when they might have to move their RF channel after, the sale of the spectrum. So they exempted them even longer until a year after the spectrum auction concluded, which was 2020. So 2021 was when they had to go off.
And no, usually, when I get the Atlanta channels here, I'm able to get CBS in Atlanta, not CBS in Greenville, but it's different programming on different stations. So, like, if you're watching ABC, like WLOS on ABC here, or WSB here, there's different programming, like Price is Right or something like that. And Price is Right is a little bit different in some areas. You get what I'm saying?
It varies. Yeah, most of the network programming should be the same, but the syndicated programming and the local news is going to be different. Sometimes
So on channel two, like ABC Channel 2 in Atlanta, I'm able to watch Mark and Kelly and Mark. But on NBC4 here, Mark and Kelly's on here. It's really weird.
I've seen that happen. No, that happens at the ABC stations by me. I've seen a talk show carried on the one and then a soap opera carried on the other.
And ABC is, I know I haven't touched the line yet, but I know he did a couple of things. He used the Antennas Direct antennas or something, but he was thinking about getting an amp. There really wasn't a video about that either. He didn't really get the amp or anything.
Okay.
And that was the big thing about the whole antenna stuff I was thinking about doing, because honestly, the antenna stuff is going to be an easier bet for me and the family here.
Mm-hmm.
It means because I don't have to pay almost $83 a month for TV anymore.
Oh, good.
But the reason why I got the Sling was it was going to be about probably $50 cheaper of getting those channels, ESPN and stuff. Because over there you can't get ESPN. You can't.
What people don't realize is they see only like the per month thing. They don't think about per year. $50 a month is $600 a year. That's $6,000 over 10 years. That's a lot of money. I mean, that's for some people, that's like their property taxes. I mean, in certain areas, but it's like, that's the thing. People just need to look at the long-term savings. I mean, like if you just say, oh, I'll pay, 60 or whatever. It's like, no, don't. If you don't have to, don't.
Well, with the Sling TV, it's $20 a month.
Well, that's the intro rate. It's going to go to 50 at the end of the intro rate.
It didn't look that well. It went to
double check. I'm telling you, it's definitely 50 after the intro.
I got it off of that michaelsaves.org site.
Maybe he has a promotion with them where it's temporary. I can tell you it's not going to be 20 for a long time. It's probably going to be 20.
And then another thing was it was $30.50 for the first month for the blue and orange together. As I looked, it was 4 streams continuously.
Mm-hmm.
And I could stream it on my computer and stream on my TV at the same time with the box. But that was the big thing about this. When I go like on trips or stuff like that, I could take it with me. Like to my dad's. My dad has he doesn't have TV at all. It makes me kind of mad, I can't watch it,
Well, life is better without TV. The reality
Not
is
really to me.
I think it is for me.
When you're in the middle of nowhere.
Read a book.
All right, man. All right, so is there any more questions you have, man?
No, you have any last minute questions for me?
Well, I know I had some comments here on the side of the screen. If you see all the comments on the side that people were chatting the whole time during the whole video.
I didn't even notice that. I just had the private chat. Okay, all I see is I came because I only see like 4 comments. That's all right. I mean, I promote on my channel, so there'll be other people that are just
there was about 16 people in here earlier.
Oh, really? I'm just seeing comments on StreamYard. That's from you. I see Cheddar, Chuck E, and then Airwave. But go ahead, read off whatever.
Yeah, Airwave said hello. I came here because I heard a Tanman was going to be on here. Interesting, same or something like that. But there was a Chucky Cheddar Chucky E. What the heck is that? Some random person?
No, it's funny. It makes me think of Chuck E. Cheese. I'm glad he has that.
Well, the big thing is the ATS 3.0 thing. I think do you think it's going to get better, or you think it's not going to get better anytime soon?
Be a what you said?
You think ATS 3 is going to get better, or not really right now?
Sorry, I have my speakers down. Say it one more time. I didn't.
Do you think ATS 3 is going to get better, or
not better? Really? Gotcha. I thought you said. That's what I thought you said. It's hard to say. I mean, it is a better standard in terms of the technical aspect, where you have Stations can control a lot more things, but they can also do worse with it. So TV stations can go on a layer that's more robust and easier to pick up. So there's actually a way for stations to integrate, to go on a certain layer and broadcast a certain way where it's a lot easier to pick up, very easy to pick up. But they can also make it so that's worse and harder to pick up than currently. And when you ask me, do multi-billion-dollar media corporations do the right thing? Does United Healthcare do the right thing, or do people die because they do the wrong thing? And it's the latter. So
this was recently. He probably switched my insurance. Well,
I mean, I don't trust multi-billion-dollar media corporations to do the right thing. I trust them to do what's best for their shareholders, which is going to be driving as much money as possible, which will probably be reduce the signal so that way people go to cable and satellite or streaming service. So contact your elected officials, make your voice heard, or else over the TV's gone in 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, that's the big problem about things. I just switched to over-air TV just recently, honestly, because I'm sick of watching YouTube TV. Atlanta. Yeah,
it's gonna be around in the worst case scenario. It will still be around for another decade or two, but I have a suspicion that if broadcasters get their way, they're gonna put all stuff behind a paywall or just reduce the coverage so no one can get it.
Well, all right, man, we're good to go. So, thank you guys for joining the Jackson Heroes podcast. Check Antenna Man out on YouTube at Antenna Man, his Antenna Man YouTube channel, and his website antennamanpa.com. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I will see y'all later on. Goodbye. And there we go. All right, cool.